A small wooden chair. A plate. One marshmallow. For 50 years, this image has been used to explain success and failure. Who makes it in life, and who doesn't. We were told it came down to one thing: self-control. But the real story is very different. And it changes everything we thought we knew about willpower, poverty, and human nature. In the late 1960s, a psychologist named Walter Mischel ran a simple study at a preschool on Stanford's campus. A child was placed alone in a room with a marshmallow. The rule was simple: eat it now, or wait, and receive a second one later. Some children waited. Some didn't. That was the entire experiment, at first. Mischel wasn't trying to predict anyone's future. He was studying something much narrower: how children cope with temptation. He noticed the ones who waited longest weren't gritting their teeth. They were distracting themselves, singing, covering their eyes, looking away. That finding, on its own, was modest. It didn't need to be a legend. Years later, Mischel and his colleagues tracked down some of those same children, now teenagers, and compared how long they had waited as 4-year-olds to how they were performing in adolescence. The children who had waited longer, on average, had noticeably higher SAT scores. That single correlation became one of the most quoted findings in modern psychology. It offered something irresistible: proof that success was earned through character, not circumstance. That the ability to delay gratification, not luck, not money, not environment, was the true engine of a good life. Books were written. Parenting guides were built around it. Corporate training programs adopted it. The idea spread because it flattered the people who already believed they'd earned their success. But almost no one asked the one question that mattered: who were these children? The children in Mischel's original study were not a cross-section of America. They were sons and daughters of Stanford faculty, graduate students, and staff, a narrow slice of one of the wealthiest, most stable communities in the country. The famous follow-up study, the one tied to SAT scores, tracked fewer than 100 of them. From a sample that small, that homogeneous, the world extracted a supposed law of human nature. And for nearly 3 decades, almost no one tried to replicate it at scale. In 2018, a team of researchers finally did. They rebuilt the experiment with roughly 900 children, drawn from a wide range of incomes, races, and family backgrounds, the diversity the original study never had. Then they did something the original researchers hadn't. They statistically accounted for the family's income, parental education, and home stability. Once they did, the effect that had defined 50 years of psychology nearly disappeared. The link between waiting and later achievement shrank by roughly half, and once family background was factored in, most of what remained vanished entirely. The Marshmallow Test wasn't measuring willpower. It was measuring a child's zip code. Here is the part that changes everything. For decades, the child who grabbed the marshmallow immediately was labeled impulsive, weak, lacking discipline. But waiting requires something specific: trust that the promise will be kept. Trust that the adult leaving the room will actually come back. Trust that the future is more valuable than the present, because the future is real. Not every child has been given a reason to believe that. In 2013, researchers at the University of Rochester tested this directly. Before the marshmallow ever appeared, children completed an art project with an adult who made them a promise: wait a few minutes, and better supplies would arrive. For half the children, the adult kept that promise, twice. For the other half, the adult broke it, twice, apologizing both times for showing up empty-handed. Only then came the Marshmallow Test. Children who had just learned the adult was trustworthy waited an average of 12 minutes. Children who had just learned the adult couldn't be trusted waited about 3. Same marshmallow. Same room. Same age. The only variable was whether an adult had kept their word minutes earlier. The Marshmallow Test was never a window into a child's character. It was a mirror reflecting the reliability of the world around them. A child who grows up in a stable home, where promises are kept, where dinner appears when it's supposed to, where tomorrow is predictable, learns that waiting pays off. A child who grows up where good things vanish quickly, where promises are broken, where the future is unreliable, learns something equally rational: take the sure thing now, because later may never come. One child looks patient. The other looks impulsive. But the real gap between them was written long before either one sat down at that table. We looked at that gap and called it discipline. We looked at the other side and called it weakness. This logic doesn't disappear after childhood. It follows people through their entire lives. When someone spends money instead of saving it, we call it poor financial discipline. But if a person's life has repeatedly taught them that savings get erased by the next emergency, the next unexpected bill, the next crisis outside their control, spending what they have, while they have it, is not recklessness. It's rational risk management. Patience is a bet on the future. People only place that bet when someone has handed them a future worth betting on. To be fair, the effect isn't zero. A small, genuine signal of early self-regulation does appear to carry forward. But it is a whisper, not the roar an entire industry built itself around. Somewhere in Michel's original data is a 4-year-old who looked at that marshmallow, decided the promise wasn't worth the wait, and took the sure thing while it was still there. For 50 years, we called that child a failure of character. In reality, they may have simply learned, earlier than most of us, that the second marshmallow doesn't always come. The next time you feel the instinct to judge someone for choosing the thing in front of them instead of the promise of something better later, pause. Ask what the world had already taught them about waiting. Some of us were handed a future we could trust. The rest were handed every reason not to.